Peace, warriors, and welcome to the Unpopular Perspective. Today's video is titled, Are You a Passport Bro? Starring Mr. Auston Holleman. And I've been waiting to make this video for a very long time. I've been following Mr. Auston Holleman since the brother has started his YouTube channel. And, I support many Black young men or brothers out there who start their own YouTube channel and create revenue and monetize for themselves. I think it's a good thing. I think many Black men should go the entrepreneur lifestyle and create avenues of revenue for themselves. Now, I remember when I first came across Austin's content and when he traveled down to Brazil, and he went down there, I think the first time for 2 weeks, and I think he ended up going back for a couple more weeks. And when he got back to the US, he had talked about, how the culture in South America was vastly different, not just the culture socially, because people socialize more, so forth and so on. But he also talked about how culturally things were different between the sexes and the genders. Men and women got along. There was a very healthy dating atmosphere. And there seemed to be a respect for the masculine principle, or at least in comparison to the United States, there seemed to be more respect for the masculine principle traveling to these various different countries. Now, mind you, Austin ran, he was already a successful young brother. He ran his own barber shop business, cutting hair. And I think he's originally from Texas. I'm not sure. Maybe you brothers know more than me, but I do remember he owned a barbershop business, and I think he had his own apartment. So the brother was doing well for himself. I think he was making a good living for himself here in the States. And, he wasn't, the dating demands weren't good enough for him in the US. And, he got tired of the shenanigans and the games that these modern liberal females like to play. So he packed up his bags and went overseas, and he became a content creator. Did very well for himself, generating revenue to be able to travel for a year and a half. So I salute the brother. He chose a lifestyle that fit his morals and his values and what he wanted, and I can't fault him for that. But what amazed me when this young brother stepped out was the level of negativity he received, not only from so-called Black women and women of other cultures, but there's a lot of so-called Black men who were really ridiculing his brother and putting him down and calling him a simp and a degenerate and an idiot and all sorts of terrible things, and sending him death threats and, just vile things. And it occurred to me, and that's when I realized that there are some people who are so stuck in this Babylonian society, including the modern day males here, because these are not men. Most of these guys are simps. They're males. They don't have anything going on for them. They don't have any outlook on their own life. So they would just rather hate and put down men who have a broader perspective on life and a bigger outlook and willing to take risk in order to fulfill their own visions for themselves. Most people in the society, or most people in life, I realize, have no vision. And many of them are just haters, and they'll try to pull you down if they see that you step outside of the box. And that's what happened to Mr. Auston Holleman. I also realized that he received a lot of ridicule and, from the liberal media that is online, because there is a liberal media narrative that was driven about Mr. Holleman, stating that he was only going to travel overseas for sex tourism, when that wasn't true. The young brother has never gotten into any trouble overseas. He's never committed any crimes. And I've heard various stories and seen various videos of expats who go overseas and really just tear the whole place up. They end up getting arrested, they get into trouble, so forth and so on. And they never get bad mouth or talked about, on the liberal social media platforms. But Mr. Holleman was targeted. And the reason why he was targeted is because not only did he give a solution to Western men's dating issues in the West. He gave a solution to the Western so-called black man's dating issues in the West. You know, when I was coming up, brothers, in the 90s and early 2000s, it was very taboo to date a so-called woman from another nationality or culture. You know, I mean, I know some brothers back then would date, you know, Puerto Rican chicks or, you know, some Hispanic chicks, but it was very taboo, you know. You either dated a so-called black woman and that was it. Well, fast forward now to our modern era with a lot of the shenanigans that a lot of so-called Western black women have taken to, you know, with their degenerate ideologies. A lot of black men have opted out and given up on playing the games, and they have increased their options by going overseas and dating women of other cultures. And this seems to have been a big issue for not only just so-called black women, but American women in general. And this is my first time stating this on this channel. If the black man ever tries to leave his captivity or go out and venture and try to find options for himself, he will be ridiculed. It's a shaming tactic. It's a psychological tactic to reel you back into the plantation. And when I mean by plantation, I'm not speaking on a slavery narrative. I'm speaking more on a psychological narrative. The so-called black man has to learn how to break out of his psychological captivity and comfort zones that this society has created for him. We live in a very rich time period where we have technology and social media and all sorts of opportunities at our hands that we didn't have 15, 20 years ago. So it's important for brothers to expand their minds and look at creating forms of capital and a better lifestyle for themselves aside from this place, because this place is on its way down. And I hope that the brothers who listen to my channel are thinking and viewing things from a bigger perspective. You have many options now, brothers. Don't spoil it. But anyway, Auston Holleman, you know, he posts some pretty good content. I like the brother. I know a lot of people don't. But you know, I'm not one of these guys where I'm a homer and I jock guys. I'm not that type of a guy. But when I do see young men, especially young black men, who carry themselves in a particular way and willing to take risk, it shows to me that they have a ruling class mentality and that they're willing to get out there and create opportunities for themselves. And I could do nothing more than respect that. So anyway, I'm gonna let Mr. Holleman speak, and I'm gonna chime in.
My confidence, my ego will reverse when I was in the United States. Now, I've always been confident since I started traveling. Eric, thank you for the $5 cash app. Since I started traveling, I reached a different level of confidence. Because I've been able to go around the world and pretty much have it my way, the way, when I want, how I want, where I want. Okay. I noticed whenever I was in the States, I had to, it seemed like I don't know if you guys noticed or not, I was drinking a lot more in the States, like a lot. And I wasn't necessarily drinking to feel good like I usually get. When you guys see me outside the country and I'm drinking just to drink. Like I'm drinking for what they made the alcohol for, which is to feel good, have a good time, you know, just to enjoy myself for the moment that it lasts. Whenever I was in the States, I found my mentality that whenever I drank, I was drinking to feel.
Power outages in several areas due to the cold winter.
Do you know what happens when the power goes out during
normal? Like consciously, I was thinking that like something's not right with me. You know, I'm a little stressed out. Let me drink. You know, that's how you lead to alcohol addiction.
Yes. Let me say this. The reason why a lot of men here in Western society, you know, indulge in corn. Yeah, I have to say that because of YouTube, but you know, you guys know what I'm referring to. They indulge in all sorts of pharmaceutical drugs, Marijuana has become extremely huge, especially since they've legalized it in many states. I see so many potheads now, and this is coming from someone who, back in the day, I used to smoke my level of herb, but the cross genetically modified and crossbred marijuana with the high THC levels that they sell to the masses now, it's just nothing more than a brain drug. That's the reason why a lot of these people are bugged out. They have no direction in life. They can't think properly. Their pH levels are off. They have, they stink. They smell musty because of that THC is reeking through their pores. That stuff, you're not supposed to be putting that into your body. So whatever you do, brothers, do not smoke marijuana or weed. Keep your mind sharp, fresh, and open. And a lot of brothers participate in alcoholism and getting shit-faced drunk on the weekends. The reason why, these are outlets due to the modern day man and this Babylonian society not having any direction or outlook on life, because the natural instinct in the man biologically is to build up his house. That's a metaphoric saying, to build up his house, not necessarily just a house, but to build himself up mentally, spiritually, and emotionally as a man in order to lead a woman and then have offspring with her and have children in order to lead them. You're the foundation for your family. And now that men don't have that option due to the degeneracy of the society and the liberation of the modern day Western woman and the level of chaos that she exudes that most men aren't willing to deal with, a lot of men have opted out. And because they have no direction or outlook to play into their biological necessities, they're looking for ways and means to escape, because there's nothing left here in this place. This place is a failed society. It's on its way down. So, brothers, focus on higher things, focus on the Most High, and focus on trying to get out of here.
Addiction. And that's how alcoholism starts. When you try to suppress emotions with drugs and alcohol. That's what I was experiencing when I was there. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but that's what was happening. I started to go into a shell. Why did I start to go into a shell when I was in the United States? Because trying to socialize with people in Dallas, where I was at, it was pretty much asking for too much, right? I'm not gay, so I'm not going to I'm not online complaining about not being able to socialize with men. I could give two fucks. At least it wouldn't be a high priority. But with women, whenever you can't socialize with women that are around you in your area, and listen, dudes leave comments like, we need to stop worrying about women, focus on yourself. Listen, bitch, there's nothing wrong with wanting to socialize with the women that's in your immediate area. Shut the fuck up with that. Stop saying that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to socialize with women that are in your area. Get the fuck out of here. So I started to go into a shell because there was no point of me continuing to frustrate myself over and over and over again if every time I try to socialize, it's almost like I'm committing a crime. I was just telling Jason this a minute ago. He was just telling me this to me, where you should feel bad that you had the balls to approach somebody and start a conversation. You should feel bad. That's really how it feels whenever I was approaching in the States. And I'm glad I got to go back and refresh my.
It amazes me. It really amazes me the level of cognitive dissonance that the modern day Western male has subjected himself to just when it comes to socializing with a woman. It's just so hilarious to me. Like I said, as someone who grew up, if you grew like any brothers who grew up in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, yeah, you have women who will reject you or tell you to get lost, but it wasn't a big deal because after you talked to maybe about 3 or 4 of them, you was bound to go home with one of them. We lived in a social society back then, right? And now, due to the age of information and the technological era, now we're getting ready to move into the era of AI. I believe that the current here in the States, the social lifestyle is actually degenerated. And I feel that overseas, they still are living. If I had to compare, I would say that they're in the age of like the 90s when it comes to their social climate. Whereas here in the States, the social climate is destroyed. It's over with. And I see all these men online complaining that they're trying to justify why things are the way they are. And they believe that over maxing in various areas of their life is going to help them, like overlooks maxing and increasing their dating profiles and all this bullshit, maxing out on every endeavor of their life to help them attract a woman. Let me tell you this, from someone who's never had issues with women, still don't to this day. That's not the issue. It's a social issue. It's not a self issue. Now, do some men have to get their shit together and work on themselves? Yes, they do. And I believe most men should have a foundation and focus on their finances and personal endeavors before they even allow a woman into their life, because I believe most men aren't ready. But at the same time, I do try to be objective, and I do see the issues in our society to where men are having issues with just attracting one woman, let alone any. So there is a social issue going on, and most guys try to seem like they're cool or act cool and be in this level of denial, like it's your issue as a man and nobody else's. It's like, no, fuck out of here. We live in a socially degenerate society. Things are screwed up. And that's the reason why I make this channel for men who aren't. I make this channel for men that are being gaslit, because there are a lot of content creators and men out there who want to gain monetary gain off of men and gaslight the shit out of them and continue to lie to them and tell them that looks maxing and increasing your dating profile pictures and all this other bullshit is going to help them attract quality women, when in actuality, all you're just going to be doing is just attracting whores. I mean, I'm just trying to just keep it real with you. But anyway, let me let Mr. Auston Holleman continue his video.
My memory of what it was really like, even though I hated it. But it's something wrong with you wanting to approach. But when I came here to Paraguay, even when I was at the airport in Bogota this morning, and I was it's like the women wanted to be approached. Like a lot of the chicks that I approached gave me a signal to approach them. We're going to get into that later on today. Now, I didn't know my potential. If I didn't know my potential for me traveling around the world already, like traveling around the world has pretty much exposed what Auston Holleman is capable of at this point in time and in the future, and the possibilities of that as well. But I would have fell into the trap of feeling like it was something that I had to deal with. It was right for me to deal with the shit that's going on back home that y'all got to deal with. And everything that's being thrown at me was like, Auston, this is how it goes. You want to talk to chicks, you got to jump through a bunch of hoops to get a 5.5. And you can pretty much just forget about the 9s and the 10s, because you have to jump through those same hoops, and your competition is probably 10 times richer than you and 10 times more flashier. I realize I don't have to deal with that. I really realize I don't have to deal with that. And I couldn't put words together that had no motivation. So what do I mean by that? I told you guys I went to a shell. I told you guys that the women are not really that friendly to approach. They don't have inviting body language. They don't have inviting demeanor. They don't have inviting energy, right? Therefore, when it came time for me to actually approach and talk, I couldn't put the words together. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, over here in Paraguay, I have no problem putting the words together. We're going to get into it later on why I say.
Yes, because you understand, because you've had the discernment to be able to travel and experience these different cultures. You understand that there is a respect for the masculine principle when you visit these other places. And you don't have to try. Don't want to necessarily use the term try hard. You don't have to overcompensate just to try to talk to a girl. It's either a yes or a no. It's just a natural response, and for someone who's traveled, myself, it is different. You approach a young lady in another country in South America, If she's not interested, she'll smile at you and tell you no thank you and just keep going. Here in the West, you might get cursed out. You know, she might have a side dude hiding around the corner, chase your ass down the street, and you'd be like, never again. You know, I'm just talking crap right now, but you know, you brothers get me. You know, you got to jump through hoops here in the West, and it's because of the social engineering that's been put into effect. It has put the opposing sexes against each other so much so that it's literally a gender war, even in real life. You know, most of these chicks you approach, you know, they're thinking about all the rhetoric that they, you know, and bad things that other women have said on social media or TikTok feeds. And now they're playing this through their mind and they can't even get out their head. And now they're trying to project that onto you. That's why I said social media, it can be beneficial depending on the type of information you take in, but it can also be extremely toxic. So.
Say that. This is all building up into what's going on today. But I have no problem putting, like, I can, in Spanish, not even in my first language, in English. You know, I started to doubt myself when I was in Texas. I was like, ooh, maybe I can't flirt because I'm just getting by speaking Spanish. You know, it's the little hee ha ha, like he's still learning. That's not what it is. It's not the language. It's the energy that I'm dealing with. And even if you know, even if I found the chick really attractive, I couldn't. That's why you guys kind of heard me walk up sometimes and just say dry things like, hey, I'm online right now. Can you say hi to the camera? Like here, I've been, you know, you got to think about it, right? I told you guys earlier in the mall, I held the chick's hand and I was smiling and I'm talking to her. And I said, you don't want to let my hand go. I could have said that in the States, but I couldn't have said that in the States. I mean by that, those words could have came out of my mouth, but the scenario would have never existed in the first goddamn place for the words to come out of my mouth. You get what I mean? She would have never put me in a position to even say that. Remember, I just told you, I never shook a woman's hand in the States. When I introduced myself, I didn't get to a point where I could shake hands. You know, motherfuckers are in the comments talking about how I told the girl in the parking garage, hey, hey. And what was her response? Well, it was two of them. The first one said, who is this guy talking to us? Like I wasn't shit. But I'm here in Forever 21, or I'm here walking.
So I believe what the brother is trying to articulate is that when he was in South America approaching women, he was able to be in his natural frame. You know, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I like to talk about. I like to talk about these subjects because when you listen to a lot of these guys online, like these red pill dudes and all this bullshit that they talk about, you know, they always talk about you need to keep your frame and hold your frame. A masculine frame or a male frame can't be stable if you're in an environment that's incongruent to who you are. So if you're a man and you walk on masculine principles, you follow the law, statutes of the Most High, you walk in the path of morality, and you're in a society that is filled with degeneracy, chaos, and confusion, most women that you meet, you're not going to be congruent with. Now, yeah, you might get laid here and there, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you're a man who is building his life, you know, with a purpose, and you have an outlook and a purpose, and if your purpose is to eventually find a woman and have a family, or just to have a fulfilling relationship, then, you know, this is not the correct environment for you. You know, if you want to make money and have a good time, then that's what this environment is for. But if you're trying to have a family and raise them in traditional, you know, values, you know, to where the masculine principle is respected and where you have women who still adhere to those principles, you need to get your passport and you need to go find that. And I'm not one of these guys online. I'm not looking for the T Chanley contract. You know, I'm just telling you what it is. You know, I do these videos because I actually care and I'm really trying to help brothers, especially young black males out there, because you're the lowest of the totem pole and you need help. You know, and I try to give the best advice that I can to brothers. And, you know, you're your own man. Hopefully you take that advice and use it. If not, you know, that's on you as well. But anyway, let's continue.
Walking around other stores in the mall, just in the mall in general, and I start off with hola, which is the same thing as hello, and I get a hello back. Is it me or is it where I'm at? I don't think it's me. I've been too many places for it to be me, right? So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter where you're at, what race of woman you're dealing with. If you're in the United States, you're not going to be able to relate to these scenarios I'm talking. Not even the dudes that are super successful or rich. You're still dealing with American women that grew up in American culture. You'll never be able to relate to my stories. Don't you ever think you will. Anyway, so
And this is very interesting that Mr. Holleman mentions this, and I had touched on this at the beginning of the video when he first started traveling, and you know, he was showing the comparisons between the cultures and these various different countries he was going to, especially the difference in the dating dynamics compared to the West. He got a lot of pushback and ridicule. And there's a lot of brothers who's gonna watch my channel and say, "Oh, well, you know, you really love Auston Holleman. You know, he's a jerk." I mean, I don't know the brother personally. I really don't. But he was doing well for himself in the States financially, and you know, the brother has a good level of discernment. And you know, I support brothers like that. I think more young, especially young black males, should have that mindset to just not be stuck here and try to build a business and generate revenue for yourself and go out into the world and build something. You know, you don't have to stay here, brothers. There's many options now. And I think Mr. Holleman is a prime example of that. Now, you can agree to disagree. If you want to go bitch and cry about it, well, you know, get the hell off my channel. This is not a fanboy channel. And, you know, I don't, if you post anything that's negative or, you know, you bitching and complaining, I'm just going to just block you. So, but yeah, so that's that. Now, what's funny is that a lot of guys that were ridiculing him and talking about him, it was pretty hilarious. These are guys who've never traveled outside the States in their life. And it's just hilarious to me. Okay, brothers and warriors. I wanted to end this video off with a scripture from Ecclesiasticus from the King James 16 and 11 Bible, if many of you brothers are familiar with the Apocrypha. As you can see here, Ecclesiasticus chapter 34, verse 9, it states that a man that have traveled knoweth many things, and he that have much experience will declare wisdom. He that have no experience knoweth little, but he that have traveled is full of prudence. When I traveled, I saw many things, and I understood more than I can express. I was oftentimes in danger of death, yet I was delivered because of these things. So I just say all that to say this, you know, after speaking on Mr. Auston Holleman, you know, when brothers travel, it increases your perspective of the world. I think brothers, instead of having a Babylonian mindset, you should have a global mindset, not speaking from a political or worldly ideology. When I talk about globalism, I'm talking about it from a spectrum standpoint. If you are to be kings and judges of the earth, you have to think like a king. You have to operate like a king. There's many places to invest and there's many things to do around the world. You know, many of the other nations, when they go overseas, they're not just going to have a good time. You know, they're investing in real estate, property, seeing what type of businesses they can create, building homes. So, you know, when we talk about having a ruling class mentality and operating on a higher level, we have to think bigger, brothers. And, you know, there's many guys out there who may not like Auston Holleman, and, you know, that's fine. You have the right to your opinion. You know, it is what it is. You don't have to like the brother, but at the same time, you know, respect has to be given to where it's due. And, you know, he has experience and wisdom in traveling, as well as many other brothers online who have experience and wisdom in traveling. And instead of ridiculing these brothers, you can maybe learn a thing or two from them, because the type of information and content that they give you can be very beneficial to you if you ever decide to travel. So just thought that that would be a good ending to this video. And hopefully you brothers can take this and utilize it, and hopefully it benefits you in any way possible. So that's it. Peace and blessings.